Every now and then in life, we find it necessary to make shifts. And such is true in my podcast journey. Allow me to introduce you to Embrace Your Power. Now, it's a new name, but you can still count on me to encourage you to be, do, have, and achieve anything you want. Embrace Your Power podcast with Denise Taylor is still the place where you can count on me to encourage you to build a life that you love without apology. So keep your subscription and stay in your seat and buckle up for a life-changing experience each and every week. Well, hello there. It's Denise Taylor. You know, I'm always excited to welcome you each and every week right here on Embrace Your Power. That's right. We got a new name, but our mission is clear and my voice is still powerful. This is the place where you can count on me to encourage you to build a life that you love. I believe that God has not given us fear. He has given us power. And when we embrace our power, we can be, do, have, and achieve anything we want. You can count on me to show up each and every week. And we are celebrating the fact that I have done that now for over 1 year. This entire month of April, we have been enjoying some standout episodes and having them play back to encourage us again. Every time when you're in a season of life, sometimes you can hear something one time and hear it back again and get another nugget. And so I hope that you have enjoyed the episode so far, and we've got one more in store for you this week. Now, some of you may know, in addition to the podcast, I show up serving others in a most impactful way through my DeniseTaylor.live events. These signature events happen throughout the year, and these experiences are always focused on helping us transform and become better, greater, and more empowered. I want to talk today a little bit about the signature events that have been impactful and how I am so grateful for the opportunity to serve. Now, some of you may know I host conferences, and many of them to date have been virtual. The conferences center around our success and our experiences in letting go of our past that may be keeping us bound and making us play small and hide in plain sight. So recently I hosted the Success Conference. It was my second one, and it was so amazing. In fact, both of them were so amazing. In addition to that, I also recently hosted the Unstoppable Conference, and that is when we really unpacked this notion that what happened to us did not ruin us. And so it's always my pleasure to bring those events to the table because I have been called to be more than successful. I have been called to be significant, which means that I need to do my very best to impact the lives of others. Those events have really been standout, and the feedback that has come from them has been most impactful. Now, in addition to the events themselves, we also layer in the help to jumpstart your transformation. So many of you know that we have workshop series that always follows the events so that those who feel that nudge to go deeper, stretch further, and grow more will have the partnership to do so. That to me is the experience of a lifetime. When I get a chance to sow back directly into the lives of others who then return the words that let me know I'm in the right space, they say to me, "You have made a difference in my life." And when I hear that, then I know I am succeeding at being significant, which is the call that I've been challenged to do. Now, there's one more event that I host twice a year, and I enjoy it so much. So as you know, we have morphed from life, love, and the pursuit of happiness to Embrace Your Power for all the right reasons. But we are still focused on life, love, and happiness, because I believe when you embrace your power, you will experience more life, more love, and more happiness. One of the aspects of love that we go deeper in is this whole notion about relationships. And so twice a year, I get to host Couples Love Week, and I have done that 3 times now. It is a 5-night event where I bring couples to the stage to talk about some aspect of their relationship, and we have had some incredibly powerful stories. I have had the opportunity to welcome to the virtual stage 15 different couples so far. We host one around Valentine's Day and another in the fall. So far, we have broached some of the heavy-hitting couple-related conversations. We've talked about getting on the same page. We've talked about child loss, to miscarriage and unfortunate pregnancy circumstances. We've talked about infidelity. We've talked about separation. We've talked about being newlyweds. We've talked about being OGs. We've talked about raising autistic children. We've talked about dealing with brain surgery. We've talked about growing in love together because we married young. We've talked about financial situations and overcoming difficulty when it comes to money. We have had many conversations, but the one we're going to hear from today is Levi and Connie Braswell. Their conversation about overcoming infidelity was so raw, so truthful, so transparent, and the vulnerability that they allowed themselves to bring to that conversation was simply amazing. It is actually one of the ones that I would say you need to watch because you can see how powerful the conversation is. So I decided to include that one to just bring a highlight to the amazing conversations that we get to have during Couples Love Week. So today's rewind is going to be with Connie and Levi. Now, before we take off with Levi and Connie, I just want to celebrate us one last time. Now, every great celebration deserves cake and a candle. And as we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the podcast, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who listened, who tuned in, who subscribed, who recommended, who suggested, and who encouraged me. This celebration is for you. I am grateful for you to allow me to be a part of your life's journey. And I want to say happy anniversary to the two of us. And I hope that we have many, many more. Now, this week for them is a big week because they actually have an anniversary this week. And so I am so excited to honor them and celebrate them. I'm glad that they're making time and room to share with us. I appreciate you guys being here. And in true Couples Love Week fashion, I want to say this. I want you to love on your wife with your words. So Levi, please do the honor of introducing your beautiful wife.
That is not a problem. Everyone to my beautiful wife, Constance Braswell. She is the daughter of Robert and Carmen Corlew of Springfield, Ohio. She is a wife. She is a mother. She is a businesswoman. She is a first lady. She is my love. She is my laughter. She is my smile. She is my best friend. She is a prayer warrior. She is a child of God. And she is the director of her own school, Impact New Generations Academy, that she built from her ground up. I would like to introduce everyone on the line to my beautiful wife, Constance Braswell.
I love it. I love it. All right. Go ahead, Levi. I love the love of our words. See, what he was able to pour out to you is all the greatness that he sees in you and how you shine and show up. Now, having said that, please, Connie, do us a favor and introduce us to your handsome husband.
Okay, now I'm not going to do all that. Okay, so here I go. I am married to the wonderful Levi E. Braswell Jr. He is from Wilton, North Carolina. He is the only child of Levi and Shirley Braswell. He was born in Wilson, North Carolina, but he is a military brat. He has lived all over the world, traveling with his father, who retired as a military chaplain. So he was an officer. He lived in Japan, Turkey, all over the place. So he is also an amazing husband, friend, father. He is my pastor. Yes, woo, woo. He is a chief financial officer for the Department of Defense, my best friend of 25 years.
Well, you did good, girl. Talking about you ain't gonna do all that. You came through. I want to welcome you both. Now, I will tell you why I selected you to be a part of Couples Love Week. There were certain moments that I witnessed where Levi was so attentive to you, Connie, from across the room. He was attentive to what your needs were from across the room. He was in the middle of playing cards with us, and he could hear. It was like a bionic ear that he needed to turn his attention to what was going on with you. And when you find that frequency, you have such connectivity to one another that was beautiful to me. And so I knew that we needed to highlight your story. Now, what I didn't know was everything else that you guys were going to share in the form of the testimony, which we will get to as we go throughout. But that also tells me that it's not easy to achieve good love, and that it takes work, and that it takes commitment on both parts in order to do what I said, which is grow personally so that you can soar relationally. So tell me this, as you're celebrating your anniversary, and I appreciate you taking time out, tell us about the moment, Levi, when you knew that she was the one that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with.
That's a good question. And here's the thing. We kind of have a similar testimony. When I first met Connie, I was not looking for a relationship. I just come from overseas. I just left a lot of my friends and people that I was connected to. So the only thing I wanted when I met her was a friend. The only thing I wanted when I met her was someone I can kick it with, someone I can go to the movies with. It was not till after that, after I grew in the knowledge of who she was, that I realized, I think I'm really feeling her. It's more than just a friend thing or someone I can kick it with. This is really someone I can see myself being with. And what made me realize that if I'm able to be her friend first, and I like her personally, and like her as a person first, I have no problem loving her as a wife, because she's truly my friend first.
Wow, that's beautiful. So,
at the time that we were apart from each other and we were trying to still be friends, I realized I really want this woman in my life for the rest of my life. Because
he messed up the friendship.
See, she tells the story wrong every time.
I tell it right every time. He messed up the friendship. So the deal was, he wasn't looking for anybody. I had just got to my first duty station in at Heartbreak Air Force Base in Florida. So I was trying to get to know people. I was trying to mingle. You know, this is my first time away from home. So when I met him, and that's a whole nother story, we were kind of set up. When I met him, and the whole thing about us getting together, I met him on September the 22nd, 1996. I married him September 22nd, 1997. So what had happened was, the night we met, some friends had taken us to me to meet. You know, they wanted to go to church where they went to church at, and I didn't want to go. I ended up going, and the little young girl that was with us kept saying, "I'm going to introduce you to my god brother Levi." I was like, Levi? I was from up north. I had never heard of anybody named Levi, so I was not intrigued. They didn't want to meet a Levi. And so anyways, we ended up riding somewhere to a little base food court. And I said, after he had left, he asked me for my number. I gave it to him. And he said, I'm going to call you, but I'm not going to call you. It was on a Sunday when I met him. He said, I'm not going to call you back tomorrow because it's Monday Night Football, but I'll call you after that. And I was like, oh, okay. So he walks off and he leaves. And I turned and said to the little girl that was sitting beside me, I said, man, too bad I didn't know him better. I would have asked him to take me out to eat because I don't want to eat nothing here. And I said that, and then I proceeded to turn around and go to the magazine rack and look at magazines. 5 minutes later, I hear somebody standing behind me and they go, so if you knew me better, you asked me to take you out to eat? What in the world? So needless to say, that little girl had ran outside, ran across the parking lot, told him that, and we ended up going out that night. So I said, well, are you taking me out because she said something or because you wanted to? He said, I didn't want to. I wouldn't ask you. I said, okay, fine. So we go out that night. We both set boundaries and rules. I'm not looking for no relationship. We're just going to be friends. I don't want nothing. And so those were the rules of who we were for months until he messed up the friendship and asked for a kiss one day.
Okay. All right. Well, you didn't stop him. Apparently,
no.
Well, I made him wait.
I don't let him have a kiss now.
I made him wait. No. I didn't just pucker up my lips. No, you're gonna wait. I said, I said, you're messing up the friendship, is what I said. I said, what are you doing? And so, anyways,
She told me the story after. After I gave her that kiss, she walked inside her room and slid down the door and was like, oh my goodness. What was that?
That's beautiful.
The story is God gives you what you need when you stop looking for what you think you want. We weren't looking.
We weren't looking.
And God gives you what you need when you stop looking.
That's good. That's good. Because a lot of people, and you hear it often about how they are looking, searching, waiting, wanting, and have all manner of emotions. But it's like when you took your eye off of that being your focus, he brought right into view for you what each of you wanted. That began with friendship, and it began understanding each other outside of relationship, which I think is powerful because a lot of people lose friendship in relationship or never had friendship in relationship because they came in hot and heavy. They was hot and heavy from the beginning, so they really didn't have a foundation of friendship. So as you guys are celebrating anniversary, right? That's an incredible story, a whole year later that you're getting married. But as you're celebrating anniversary, what do you cherish about what you guys have built together, the relationship and sharing your life together? What are you cherishing in this moment of celebration?
Well, I cherish who she is as a person. Realized after years of living with her that she actually completes me. She is the strength to my weakness. I'm a shy person. I'm a very quiet person. A lot of people think I'm aloof and mean when really it takes me a while to get to know someone. So she is not like that. She's never met a stranger. If you met her, she's a friend. She immediately jumps into a conversation. I'm not that way. So she has forced me out of my shell and has gotten me connected to situations that I would not have gotten on my own. I cherish who she is because who she is completes me and makes me better.
I think that's powerful because when you have a very dynamic, strong, and powerful helpmeet or mate in your life, it can be overshadowing sometimes. It can be intimidating. But I think the way that you're viewing it in the context of her completing you makes it so extremely powerful how you are receptive to that, where some people struggle with it, whether it's comparison or, just the strife of trying to figure out how to come together and get on the same page. And so that tells me our mindset and how we look at it and how we come into it is a huge indication of how we can see our love blossom. That's powerful. Connie, tell me, what are you cherishing as you celebrate?
I cherish his patience. He's very gentle. His mannerism is very gentle. He's quiet. rarely, almost never raises his voice. He's very calculated, and I'm not. I'm in the moment. I'm very spontaneous. He's a planner. He'll come with me with his vacation package and it's detailed. And I'm like, I don't need a chart for vacation. Let's just go have fun. So I'm very off the cuff, very laid back. So I think I cherish what he cherishes is the balance. Now, we didn't always appreciate that about each other. We used to fight about the differences that we had. We didn't always respect that. And it wasn't until later that we learned to appreciate who each other was and how that brought balance to us. So I would say definitely his demeanor, his calm in a situation where I'm ready to be all riled up. Well, wait a minute. Even when dealing with our children, even when he's about to discipline, I hardly ever can recall a time where he's had to raise his voice, just his demeanor. And even in dealing with them, I'm disappointed. You knew better, would break them. So I think that's what I cherish most about him.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that's another sign of finding what completes you, right? Because you guys approach the situations very differently. And I think when you are able to respect, cherish, and honor those differences instead of allowing them to be something that creates disconnect and be something that creates partnership and creates that coming together for intimacy, you can really tap into something that allows you to go further. Now, let me tell you why I picked the Empire. Okay. So I was sitting with my creative director who does a lot of my marketing, and we knew that we wanted to have a moniker. And when I started talking about you guys, he's in creative space, and I was like, well, they have like legacy. They've received mantles and, a mantle of ministry because they're both preacher kids. And, then they have their children, and their children are just really huge in each of their rights, of how they're soaring individually. And then they come together and they're doing plays and they're doing, like I'm saying all of this. And he was like, it sounds like the Lions on Empire, right? Where you have all of this going on in the context of family, right? And I was like, you're right. It is them building an empire of legacy for their family that originates with what they received in those nuggets from each of your parents, in the foundation that they instilled in you, one that you wobbled with, but you course corrected and came back and got together through forgiveness and healing. But then you went on to really establish that footing with your family in such a powerful way. And so that is why I selected the Empire. When I saw the Lion King picture of y'all all made up, that was it for me. I was like, this is so incredible. Now, with all the beautiful love that radiates from both of you today, I know you had to fight for your relationship. And it even hit a point where you almost let love go. Levi, tell us about the unfortunate circumstances, and looking back, how did that happen?
Well, it was a time in our marriage where we began to lose our effective communication with each other. We were heavily involved in many things outside of our home. We were using our giftedness, but as we were using our giftedness, we were losing sight of each other. And as we lost sight of each other, we began to be broken. And me as the man, as the husband, I wanted to fix what was broken. So I set out in myself to try to fix what was broken, fix my wife and how sad she was. And in my attempt to fix her, I lost sight of even my own hurt. So you actually have a hurt person trying to fix someone else who's hurt. And in 2008, we had a significant diabolical issue in our marriage that almost cost us our marriage. And it came because we lost sight of who we are, of our love for one another. Lost sight of her, I lost sight of myself, and I lost sight of who God says I was. And God had to remind me, he called me to be actually on my face in repentance for what happened, and reminded me that I called you to love her in spite of what she does or who she is. You have to love her because I've called you to love her. And the moment I started to do that and really love her because God called me to do that, I remembered that love is a ministry. Love is something I was called to do. And in that moment, as I fell down on my face, I was actually being anointed to restore her. A lot of us fail to see that sometimes. We have infidelity, we have things that enter into our marriage, and we set out to try to fix it without being anointed to fix it. And in order to be anointed to fix it, God has to heal you. So I needed to be healed. So because God healed me and allowed me to see myself again, how he saw me, I was able to help heal her.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Connie, what would you add? What would you add to that season?
I think we both operated, like he said, communication. We operated from a place where we took each other for granted. In retrospect, looking back, we say now that we're we call ourselves the deadly combination because he is an only child. He's not used to conflict. I'm the oldest of 6. We conflict all day long in our house. And then you have to make up quickly because you either got to share the bed or the bunk bed or the bedroom, or you're going to have to knock on the door to get somebody out of the bathroom. So you had to become friends real quick in our house. In a family of 6, you couldn't hold a grudge. And so we both brought our individuality into our marriage. He wasn't used to conflict, and I would pop off like, blam, 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 blam. And then I'm ready to get over it. He's laying over here wounded. He's bleeding out over and I'm thinking, you soft? All I said was this, and your feelings is hurt. And I was kind of rough around the edges. I was a tomboy. I didn't want to be girly and stuff when I was younger. So I had a rough edge about me. I was in the military. I marched on the front line. I was always in charge of something. So I would say I had kind of like a harder, independent outer shell, kind of like to the point where if you don't do it, okay, I will. And it's my money and I work for this. So I had a harder outer shell. Actually, I was really rude and disrespectful when you just take all the nice words off of it. I was rude and disrespectful. What I didn't realize that in those moments, I was chipping away at the man God had intended and shaped him to be. So every smart word made him feel lower and lower and lower to the point where he felt like, what's the point of being married to her? Doesn't need me for anything. She can do everything. If I asked him to move the furniture, he had about 10.5 seconds to do it. If he didn't move it, I slung the couch across the room on my own. I did. If I wanted, he would go out, and when he would come back, I'd have the whole house rearranged, new curtains put up. I just did what I wanted to do. And I had to realize, but as the oldest, not to make an excuse, in my mind, as the oldest, I kind of felt like I was supposed to take charge and be in charge and, do it my way. It's my way or the highway. And when you didn't, there was a consequence to pay. I had an attitude. So I believe that chipped away at him being a leader. It chipped away at him being a man, and being a husband and taking his rightful place, because I was so busy trying to be in the same place that he was. So
that's a very powerful statement.
I would get upset with that because me being a peaceful person, if you want to say that, and a person that does not like to argue, me being pushed into an argument will make me even madder. Because I wouldn't just be mad because we're arguing. I'd be mad because I let you get me mad. So we end up in the house arguing. Knock down, drag out. When I tell you knock down, drag outs, knock down, drag outs. Because I did not like conflict. Couldn't stand it. She thought conflict was a part of marriage and a part of life. You're not going to go through life without conflict. And I'm like, yes, you can. You surely can. No, you can't. So we had to come to a middle ground on that to realize that conflict was necessary, but there's a way to get through that conflict through communication. If you accept how you communicate.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. You know, I think a lot of people, and there's some comments in the chat, can resonate with that, can resonate with the both perspectives, be it male or female, typically show up in relationships. And my biggest chuckle is because that was me, 10.5 seconds,
Yes,
and unfortunately, I can't say I'm all the way redeemed on that. I still have moments of 10.5.
It's a daily work. It's a daily work. Constant
so it really is. I think, but what you guys were able to realize is that you're both different. And because we're different doesn't mean the other is wrong. We bring different experiences in, and we have to be willing to tarry together, is what I like to say. You got to be willing to stay in there and tarry together, because the worst thing that can happen is that silence sets in, because distance quickly follows silence. Disconnect quickly follows distance.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be willing to stay connected and stay in there together. Now, from your perspective, what was the most devastating about infidelity? And was that the most significant thing you lost or forfeited because of that?
I think the most devastating thing was the lack of trust.
Mm-hmm.
When you lose trust, it's hard to get that back. When you lose trust from someone you call your friend and your lover, it's really hard to get it back, because it really breaks you. And I could tell that it broke her. I can tell that it broke her spirit, that it broke who she was, that laughter that I saw, that smile that is the thing I fell in love with in the first place. It wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
So it was something I could not blame on anyone else. I had to take responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to be a man who loves his wife as much as I say I do, and cause such a scar that you can't heal on your own.
Mm-hmm.
When you love your spouse the way I say I love her, and I do, and when you cause that type of pain, you have to live with the mindset that the broken pieces that you see, and that's the phrase that you use in the introduction, the broken pieces that you see, you played a role in that break.
Mm-hmm.
And that caused me to take extra care with every piece that was broken.
Mm.
When I realized that I was the reason why the pieces were broken on the floor, every piece that I saw, I treated with care.
Mm.
Every piece that I saw, I said, okay, that I can heal that today, but maybe something else tomorrow. I can heal that tomorrow, maybe something else. There was no limit to the time, because I had to treat every piece with care.
Mm-hmm.
And some people get that the wrong way. They feel, okay, I hurt her, but get over it.
Mm.
It's been a year, it's been 2, get over it. Wait a minute. If I take responsibility for the pieces I still see, I can't just say, get over it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not taking care of the pieces that you broke.
Mm.
Because it takes time for those pieces to heal.
Yeah.
So I think that was the most devastating thing to me, coming from a person who loved her as much as I did, realizing my role in breaking her and breaking her spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It did something to me.
Yeah. 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 What about you, Connie? What was most devastating?
I think for me, the thing that was most devastating, of course, it was that trust was broken. Because regardless of the things that we had going on, I was totally blindsided. And you have to understand, in our world, his parents, longevity in marriage is just, we're surrounded by that. His parents have been married 53 years. Mom and dad's 53 years. My parents are about to hit, I'm 46. So mom and dad are about to hit 48 years. We took for granted that the enemy could even work in our marriage like that. And so I would have to say the broken trust, it was that. And unfortunately for us, sometimes when things happen, you can kind of hide it. Ours was public. Mm-hmm. It came out, it was, whoa, it was like a bomb just dropped, and it seemed like everybody knew everywhere we went. So I think that was the hardest part for us, was healing publicly. Mm-hmm. And trying to, we were mishandled and story mishandled, but you have to realize when things like that happen, people don't know how to deal with stuff like that. When it comes out, it comes out. It is just blood, and then everybody's talking. So I think that was the thing that was the hardest for us. And God had to show us, we had to start disconnecting from everything that we knew. It was disconnect. We didn't have time for play friendships. We didn't have time for picnics. We didn't have time for kicking it, going out, hanging out, none of that. We couldn't turn off the television. If it wasn't godly, we couldn't entertain nothing us, because we had to heal, and because it was so public. And I think as a woman, it's one thing to be stabbed in the back, but when you turn around and see who's holding the knife, mm-hmm. that hits you a whole different way. Mm-hmm. I think it was that as the most devastating, is that we had to heal and try to figure this thing out. And it felt like there was nowhere to escape to. Mm-hmm. You turned, there was your story right there in your face. So that was the hardest part.
How did you begin that forgiveness process? How did that start, right? Because I imagine it wasn't like you learned and then you said, okay, I'm ready to work on forgiveness. I imagine it was a process even getting to the point where you could choose to forgive. How was that process for you?
Well, first, we're going to go ahead and just keep it real. First, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of colorful language, scratching, biting, hitting with the cars, police coming. It was real ugly things. It was ugly. There's nothing cute about it. And that's just the reality of what it looked like. It's ugly. It's nothing pretty. You can't gloss over and say, well, the Lord really, no, that's not what happened. We were fighting. We were crying. There were times where you go to cook breakfast and you just stop cooking and crying. You go to iron your clothes and you're crying. You're running. It's a nightmare. Trying to forgive and work, and you know what the Lord says, you know what God says, we know the Bible, we can quote it, but then how do I walk out the fruits of the Spirit and I'm this angry and I'm this mad? Because what I really want to do, I want to give you more than hands. I want to go to jail. As a matter of fact, I want to go to prison. Nothing matters anymore. The children, family can raise them. I got this. I'm giving me a knife, a gun. That's reality. That's how you really feel. And so I think the first thing for me was transparency. Mm-hmm. And my husband picking up those tiny glass pieces. Mm-hmm. And his transparency and his honesty in the ability to help me heal, helped me heal. I got that public apology. I got that verbal apology. Where I was wrong, people were addressed. Mm-hmm. No, this is my wife. Mm-hmm. I was wrong. This was diabolical. No. Don't misconstrue. My place is with my wife. Mm-hmm. And that was the starting point. Of course, we dove headfirst into marriage counseling. We found some amazing marriage counselors. I don't know if they're on, but Dick and Judy Letitia, they were white, and we call them our white chocolate. And so that's our white chocolate mom and dad. We love them to pieces, but we found them. They didn't know us. but they were intricate in our lives. And once the story, you know, we started making phone calls, we are surrounded by amazing couples. And some of them are online. So Pastor Lula and Daryl Coleman are also my sister Siobhan's in-laws. They knew my husband when he was in Japan as a little boy. So some things just come full circle. They were calling, I'll never forget their strategic words that the people who were connected to me said to me. And I remember First Lady Lula Coleman saying to me, baby, put your war clothes on. You've been in the military before. Get that war paint on. Roll your sleeves up. Put your combat boots on. It's time to stomp the enemy. We're not going to let him win and destroy this marriage. So we had her. We had our parents holding us up on either side. We had my best friend, April. I remember calling her and I was just saying, I can't do this anymore. And at the time I was living in Springfield, Ohio. She was living in Indianapolis, which is like a 90-minute distance. I don't know how, but I promise you, I blinked and she was at the front door. Get up. I was like, well, I don't have no clothes. I haven't. Okay, well, we'll go buy some. You getting up out this house. And she was literally one day prayed around me and my husband stomping and taking. I mean, she didn't play. Her and her husband were instrumental. I remember one time we were sitting in Perkins. I had this horrible habit that when something would hit me, I would get up and walk. I wouldn't tell him I was leaving the restaurant or wherever he had taken me to. I would just get up and go and he wouldn't be able to find me. I'd be walking the streets crying. And I remember one time I was feeling my flight or fear moment coming. And I said, God, if you want me to stay in this marriage, I need a sign right now. And I had my head down. And when I looked up, I call him Aunt Toby and Uncle Mike, but he's a bishop, suffragan bishop for the PAW. Aunt Toby, they used to take me to church with them when I was a teenager. Him and his wife were standing right there. And I promise you, it was as if an angel was standing behind her. And when I saw her, I got up and I ran across the restaurant and I just grabbed her and started hugging her. And I didn't say any words. All I could say was, That's all I said. And she looked at me and said, baby, okay. All right. Y'all need to be at the house tonight. So we had her, another prayer warrior couple covering us. And then God led us to Pastor Lance and Lady Darden, who strategically began, from the moment we walked in his office, he saw the brokenness, but he said, okay, man of God, woman of God, I see what the enemy tried to do. I see the calling, I see the anointing. Okay, this isn't, it's not strange to me as we began to talk. And so we looked up and in the middle of our devastation, we were surrounded by prayer warriors, people who could pray for us, our parents, like we were completely everywhere we looked, north, south, east, west, northwest, southwest, northeast, no matter where we turned, we were surrounded by prayer warriors. And so God intricately put a team of people together for us that we didn't have out no one couple. We had people men that he could talk to, men who could give him godly guidance, women who could give me godly guidance. I didn't need to talk and regurgitate story. That was just gonna make me mad. That was gonna make me want to do something crazy. So I think that was instrumental in our healing process. And then just him being in tune to me. I remember one night laying in the bed and I was not asleep. I was trying to cry quietly because I didn't want him to hear me still crying. And I heard him get up and I heard the computer clicking and I'm sitting there like, no, this ninja better not be on nobody's computer because if he is, I was ready to go. And next thing I know, he was by my bed and I'm like, and he reached down in the dark, he touched my face and he said, I knew you were crying. He said, come on. And I was like, I'm okay. I don't want to get out the bed. He said, no, come on. And we went in the living room and he had set the computer to a love song. Mm-hmm. Say any words, he took me in his arms and he just began to slow dance. And it was just me and him in that moment. And he just began to talk to me, telling me, I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm praying daily and asking God to teach me how to love you, to teach me how to walk, how I'm supposed to be a husband. And that moment was that was one of the sealers for me. It became a routine that at nighttime we would have a slow dance before we went to bed. Every night before we prayed, we gave each other a 15-minute of temperature check. Did the enemy try to attack you in your thoughts and in your imagination? That's one of the things. That's why I say being transparent. Don't sugarcoat nothing. It is what it is. Sin is ugly. It's diabolical. So you have to say what it is, because otherwise you give the enemy room to paint with your imagination and create a narrative that is totally false. And we had these moments that we call temperature check. And during temperature check, if anything bothered me, if I saw something on TV, okay, so we're going to turn the TV off. We fasted from the TV and let's talk about the reality of who and what our situation is. And after we would talk about that 15 minutes, then we would pray and we would slow dance. So it was just, those are some of the instrumental things that happened for us in forgiving and learning to heal.
Before you chime in, Levi, you brought out some very, very powerful nuggets. If I could just play it back, it is incredibly important who you have in your life and your ability to make connection with people who want the best for you, even at your worst moments, so that they can help you navigate that and even stand up for you when you are too weak within yourself to stand. The tribe, the nation, even that God encamped around you guys, loved you and wanted the life that he had designed and purposed for you so much that they weren't moved by the chaos and they weren't moved by the crying. They were there as steadfast partners, models, mentors to help you navigate that situation. And so it is incredibly important who's in the crowd. Okay.
Absolutely.
The second thing that I heard you talked about is how important it was for him to fight to stay connected to you. Now, see, I knew none of this, and I could even sense that in the midst of this card game, it was as if he had a bionic ear to be in tune with what was happening with you, rolls away and know that you needed his presence, you needed his attention, and he prioritized that. And in that moment, he didn't sit and say, I'm lost for words, I'm lost for what to do. He looked for a way to press in and love that peace, like he talked about, right? In that moment, and love that peace until he could start putting that mosaic vase back together, right? In a very beautiful way. Chaos sometimes send people scrambling, and they want to avoid the complicated, challenging things that must be confronted in that moment. And so, Levi, I honor you for not running. I honor you for not giving up when it was pressure packed. You hung in there to figure out how to love her in the most beautiful way at the most tragic time to bring restoration back to your family, back to your marriage, back to your wife. And that to me is powerful and such a great testimony of what love truly is. I know when I read Corinthians 13 and I look at what love really is, it is completely sacrificial, has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do about how you are going to show up in the most giving, transparent, authentic way possible. And I thank you for your example in this season, Levi. And I thank you for your willingness to show up here. The healing process was beautiful for you guys from what you shared. How did you allow yourself to trust even yourself, Levi, again? How did you allow yourself, Connie, to trust again in that moment? How was intimacy, and I don't mean in the bed, but intimacy of your connectedness further restored?
That's a loaded one there.
Well, somebody shared with me, I can't remember who shared, intimacy means into me. And I can't remember where I learned that from. And he basically became into me, as well as I had to become into him. And so that was the first thing that we learned. And even as far as even intimacy, you know, so many times we are jaded by the world. We look at what the world says intimacy is supposed to look like. Well, after it was broken, you know, we prayed and asked God, what did you design? When you created intimacy, it's so powerful and it's such a beautiful thing. What did you design? So we literally fasted and prayed and said, we're not touching nothing until we figure this thing out. And when it came back together, it was so brand new. I said, well, wow, thanks. Wowee. And so, so we learned and we began I discovered who he really was. And when I stopped being afraid and intimidated of who God had designed him to be, and when he could appreciate who God had called me to be for him, we were looking at each other like, how do we miss this? To this day, you know, and I'm thankful for the experience because my children learned. I remember somebody said to me when we were trying to, you know, get even and we were doing everything wrong, said, you have to realize everything you do, it's not unto him, it's not unto her. It's unto your children, because you are setting something. They're going to begin to look for a spouse in what they see you display in the house. And this is going to become a cycle if you don't learn how to pull it together and do it the way God has called you to do it. When I thought about that unto my children, my daughter can't hurt like this. Son can't hurt like this. And and Caleb wasn't born yet. He's our surprise Georgia baby that came later after the blessing. But Trey and Kiera they were young. They didn't really understand what was going on. They just knew something was wrong with mommy and daddy. But things began to shift even for them. Mommy wasn't sad no more. Mommy and daddies aren't arguing. They begin to see the power of God manifest even as children. And poor Caleb, he's so clueless. If we have a debate about something, he's like, is there a fight? He's ready to cry because now there is no argument. There's no conflict because we've taken the time to learn and to love and to respect the gifts that each of us bring to our marriage.
We thought we knew what intimacy was. What we thought was intimacy was really carnality. If your intimacy is predicated on what the other can do for you, that's not intimacy, that's carnality. It's based on what you can do for me. Intimacy says, I am into you. I want to love you, mind, body, and spirit. That's intimacy. You're first. I put you first. And if I put you first and you put me first, guess what? We're both covered.
We're both first.
That's intimacy. And we learned that when we first got together, it was not intimacy, it was carnality. And that was based on our history, based on people we'd been with before. We had to get cast all of that down in our relationship to truly see what our true intimacy looks like. Yeah. Intimacy for us was a walk on the beach. That's one of the most passionate things we've done since 2008. We go down to Florida just to walk on the beach and talk. When we think about intimacy, that's what we think about. You ain't got no bed there, no pillows, no sheets, no silk. just you holding your wife's hand, walking on the beach talking.
You know, I say it often.
That's intimacy.
Yeah. I say it often that intimacy is something that is nurtured long before you get to the bedroom. And I think what you guys are proving here is that very, very point, is that you are making an investment into me, you see, right? And being able to know on a level that doesn't require that sexual connection, but that we can thrive together on a love that is built on how we are putting one another first. I love that. I love that tremendously. Now, you guys, it's amazing to me how God is always so faithful, because the empire just kind of fits, right? When you start talking about legacy and you start talking about your children, the love just radiates from you both that you have for all three of them. And it's beautiful to stand on the outside and watch just how you prioritize them, just how talented they are, and what would have been forfeited if you didn't reconcile. Right. And, you know, I think that speaks to the crowd of witnesses that stood up and stood in the gap for you guys, because they began to see, I think it was one pastor that you said, I can see what's at play here, because he could see the vision that God had for your life. How do you manage everyone's talent that's blossoming so well? And it's such a family affair. Like, what are those secrets that you have from a parental standpoint, and how you're nurturing those talents so beautifully with your children?
Well, I'm a fun mom, so I went for the shenanigans. You let children be children. So when Kiera was 3 and she would put on silver eyeshadow and her Barbie doll heels and say, "I'm ready to go," I was like, okay, let's go. If Caleb, I was looking at some pictures in my memories today, and Caleb had dressed himself and he had on mismatched shoes, and I wanted to change them, but he was determined that he was going to wear that. He had on a Star Wars tennis shoe and a regular one. That's what he wanted to wear. So you go along for the shenanigans and the ride, and you just kind of watch them cultivate, and then you guide without stifling. Mm-hmm. And so you never want to. Sometimes, you know, our children can speak out of line, or, you know, you ever read, "She grown, she's saying," well, and she may be, but guess what? If you stifle that 10 years from now, when she's standing up against peer pressure, and you don't want your child to fall to peer pressure, that's that little smart, slick lip they had when they was 5 and 6 and talking real grown. They need that when they're 16 and 17 to stand against peer pressure. So learning how to guide and nurture them in their moments and set boundaries, and keeping the lines of communication clear and open. Being what you got to talk about everything. Because if you don't educate your child on something, there's somebody around the corner there's somebody in their class that's willing to give them all the information and everything that they think that they need. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that we did. And then the big one came from my husband. He said, and then after we've done our part, we release them, because ultimately they're just on loan to us. They belong to God. So we have to release them back to be who God called them to be. So that's how we've pretty much parented. It's been fun. Mm-hmm.
And we stand amazed, because they're easy to raise. Mm-hmm. They are so awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Raise, that we thank God every day that they are the children that He's blessed us with. Mm-hmm. It's an appreciation. Mm-hmm. Let them be who they are, because we appreciate them so much that God blessed us to raise them.
Because we weren't good kids. We snuck out the house. Our children didn't, thank the Lord. But we snuck out the house. But
we knew what it looked like.
Yeah.
You couldn't get no for on us, because we knew.
We knew what you about to do.
We knew what was going to happen. So no, you can't get that for on us. We've been there. We've definitely done that.
We've done, as preachers' kids, we had to sneak to do everything. We are the king and queen of sneak.
You can't sneak on us.
Got it
So they realize
Everything's
that.
online.
They realize that.
They realize
we might well not even fake like we're going to get over them because you can't.
you can't.
So we might as well be
We're
good.
pros.
I love it. I love the partnership that you exhibit and how even in talking about parenting, you can still show the personality, that you're bringing to the table with that. Now, for those that are attending live, there's the opportunity for them to ask questions with the Q&A.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. Those who are attending live, they've got a lot of great comments out here for you guys, for sure. And I'll try to take a spin through. But there was one question that was put out here, and I'll read it. It says, friendship first. Levi, what are the crystal clear signs that a man only wants a friendship first?
That a man only wants a friendship first. I think she understood that I was being real about just wanting to be friends, and press her about being physical. I just enjoyed spending time with her. So when that level of intimacy is not at the forefront, when you're not putting pressure on someone that if they are not intimate with you or don't share what's their innermost personal thing that's personal to them, you have to earn that. That doesn't come just by you getting to know someone. You have to earn that intimacy with me. So when you have someone, a man who respects that and is willing to work for that level of intimacy, then you know you have someone who is just with you because they enjoy being with you. Or they call you, all you did was go to the movies, get something to eat, and went home, and the next day they still call you.
Yeah. No
and
strings
talk
attached.
for 2 hours. You got a friend.
Absolutely. So there are some really great comments in the chat, and I will try to capture these. I think that there is a ton of appreciation. A lot of the people you named are here supporting you guys tonight. And I just want to, before we close out, say thank you for being so transparent. Now, here at Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness, I challenge people to build a life that they love without apology. And we always close out with my LLH questions that are focused on life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. So here they are, and I'll give you guys each a chance to answer. The first one is this: what's your life wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about life if you could? And I'll start with you, Levi.
It's funny, the testimony all the time that people used to come up to me and tell me, I see this in you. You're a preacher's kid. I see a mantle on you. I see you're going to be a preacher. You're going to be this, you're going to be that. And I would say to God, I haven't been through anything. I don't have no testimony like everybody else has a testimony. I haven't had any physical issues. How am I going to reach somebody when I haven't been through nothing? If I can turn back and talk to my younger self, I would say, self, don't say that. Just live life, and sooner or later there will come a trial and a valley that you will have to get out of, and you will have your testimony. Just live life and learn your lessons. Every trial that God brings you to, there's a lesson to be learned. And if you don't learn the lessons in the trial that you're in, you have to learn it again in the next trial. And every trial you go through prepares you for the next valley you're going to go into. I learned, learn your lessons. God wants you to get, because you don't want to repeat the lessons because you didn't learn your lesson.
That's right. A test not passed is one retaken. All right, Connie, what about you? What would you tell your younger self about life if you could?
I think I would tell my younger self, as a child, as a young teenager, my issue was acceptance. I always wanted to be accepted. I wanted people to understand and know who I am and want to be connected to me. And it wasn't until going through this that I realized that being popular is really not all that it's cracked up to be. And I would say to myself, God blessed me with two amazing biological sisters who, Shelly and Siobhan, who prayed with me, and God showed me they were enough. God gave me special sisters and women, and I learned to appreciate and know that they were enough. I didn't need to be connected. Trying to connect to all of those other people, giving people too much access to your relationship and to you. I now have boundaries. I'm not afraid to say no. I'm not to say, no, I don't want to be connected to that. That's not for me. I'm peculiar, I'm different, I'm called to something else. Therefore, the people that I am connected to have to be just as peculiar as I am. Not to say that nothing's wrong with other people. I don't mind, like my husband said, I don't meet a stranger, but when it comes to that inner circle, that's enough. Mm-hmm. Enough. And so that's what I would say to myself, appreciating and knowing that I'm enough, and the people that God has given me to genuinely carry me in their heart, that's enough.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. The next one is love wisdom, which you've told a lot tonight, right? Connie, what would you tell your younger self about love if you could?
Wait for the right person. And if I could do things all over again, I would have not carried so much baggage. I think the baggage and the things that I had experienced and connected to caused me to lose sight of what a godly relationship should look like. Mm-hmm. So I took brokenness into a covenant, into marriage, and obedience is better than sacrifice. There was a sacrifice. And thankfully, God does restore, but waiting and finding out and knowing first who you are, learning how to love yourself first and love God first. And that's one thing I say to people: before anybody can ever be unfaithful to you, and before you can ever be unfaithful to anybody else, you are first unfaithful to God. Mm-hmm. And if you're unfaithful to Him first, you've left yourself as a sitting target for disaster and for trials. So that's what I would say. My love wisdom is to wait to see what God has for you. And as my best friend April says, not just being in His will, but being in His perfect will. Mm-hmm. I believe that our love and our relationship is in His perfect will. I love being with Him. I love spending time with Him. I'm spoiled rotten. He's my best friend. There's so much that we do and share together. So my love nugget is to wait, see what's for you.
It's beautiful. Levi, what would you tell your younger self about love if you could?
I would tell myself love is an action. You have to not just talk love, but be and react and show love. I had this hubris thought, I guess.
Yes, hubris.
Quit. that I was so good and so smooth, that I was easy to love. Mm-hmm. Didn't take much to love me. When the reality is, it did take a lot to love me. Mm. The reality is, I love her so much now because in spite of what we went through, she still loves me. Mm. You have to, like she said, wait for someone who's willing to show you the love. Mm-hmm. God has blessed them to show you, and not just talk about it.
That's good. That's good. And then finally, happiness wisdom. What would you tell your younger self about happiness if you could? Levi, I'll have you go first.
Laugh, have fun. I don't know how we got this mindset that marriage is not fun.
You asked God for it, like there wasn't.
I did. I said, God, when I met her, she says all the time, I said, God, when I meet the one that's for me, I want her. Don't give me somebody boring. I'm quiet enough. Give me somebody that's going to excite me and push me. Mm-hmm. I didn't know all of what I was asking for, but He gave me what I asked for.
Absolutely.
He gave me someone that excites me, mm-hmm. that smiles and laughs all the time. And even when I'm down, her laughter lifts me up. Mm-hmm. I'll never have to worry about the laugh. You can ask your sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Laugh, and you will hear it wherever you are, because it comes from a healthy place.
Mm-hmm.
Laugh.
Okay.
I'm just saying, it's a great laugh,
Mm-hmm.
but it helps me
Mm-hmm.
because even in my dark places,
Mm-hmm.
her happiness and her laughter lifts me up.
You know, I was recently listening to a book by Brene Brown, and she said the same thing you said. She said that her husband says he loves her laugh. And the fact that he loves her laugh, he loves her joy. He loves her joy is what resonated with me. And I felt the same thing when you were talking. And that was her nugget, was find somebody who loves your laugh. You know, that's really beautiful. Connie, tell me, happiness. What would you tell your younger self about happiness if you could?
Pursue it. Pursue happiness. Pursue your peace, your happiness. And I can truly say at this place in my life, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. And so I enjoy life, even with the challenges. Everything's not perfect, but I'm happy. And being in a happy place. I remember as a child, I never liked feeling sad and down. I always wanted to be happy. There was a lot of laughter and jokes and playing in our home. And I strive to bring that to our home. And we have it. There's a belly laugh in our house every day. Every day, there's something to laugh at. He even goes to bed now laughing and laying in the bed, and the kids will be like, what were y'all laughing at midnight? Somebody cracked something funny. So happiness, pursue it.
Mm-hmm.
It's it.
So let me say this: empire, imperial sovereignty, rule, and dominion. When I thought of that, when God placed it in our spirit, I never imagined how appropriate it was to really give you that title. Nothing foolish or tied to that television show, but everything that God intended to build in you, spring from you in your children, that is so well-rounded. The powerful testimony of the victory that you guys had is incredible. And I thank you for your transparency and your willingness to tell your story. I know that you were a blessing today, and I appreciate you trusting me to be a vehicle to help someone else along the way. And with that, I want you to know that success looks so good on you. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, that's it, beautiful. Thank you for tuning in. Don't ever forget that you are truly blessed with life, love, and all the happiness your heart can hold. Be relentless in building a life you love without apology. I'm Denise Taylor, and you can always find me in our free Facebook community. It's Embrace Your Power, easy to find. Now be sure to rate and review this podcast and share it with a friend. And make sure you subscribe so that we can stay connected each week. And remember, God has not given us a spirit of fear. He gave us power. So be sure to always embrace your power and go.